Hey BooTube! I'm sorry if I'm freakishly quiet. It is currently 2 o'clock in the morning. Why am I doing this so late? Because I got distracted. But anyway, this is an Arrow episode that appeared October 26th of 2017. It's Arrow Season 6, Episode 3, titled Next of Kin. I know that this week, on the 9th, which I believe is Thursday, will be pretty much, what is it? Yes, on the 9th, which is Thursday, Episode 5 will premiere, and I'm literally on Episode 3. How sad is that, right? But anyway, let's see how much I remember, so I can actually do a reaction rant for you guys. Team Arrow goes against someone, I believe his name is Faust. And for some oddball reason, John is refusing to shoot arrows. Remember, John took up the Green Arrow mantle because Oliver told him he's going to choose his son over Green Arrow, and he's like, hey John, you should be Green Arrow. For some oddball reason, John refuses to shoot any arrows. And then we also got, I believe, the city council. They begin drafting a more tighter anti-vigilante bill. You know how that's gonna go, right? Because apparently vigilantes are a no-no now. So bad. But anyway, obviously the reason why John's refusing to shoot arrows is probably because of his injury from the island. At least that's in my opinion. That's what's happening. Of course, Dinah corners John about his injury and his tremors. And John, during that whole confrontation, apparently John reveals to have leadership problems when a rogue CIA operative actually begins hunting down a former member in order to silence him, right? And everything's going really bad when it comes to John being Green Arrow, to the point where, like I said, Dinah confronts John about his tremors, and then Renee actually goes to Oliver saying, hey, we need you back. I know you said you chose your son over being Green Arrow and you passed that mantle to John, but John's not doing so damn well. I could have died because of him. We need your ass back, right? Basically, that's Renee's words. Not exactly his words, but you know what I mean. Renee pretty much begs Oliver to come back to the team because he believes John's not doing so well. And then we also got this cute moment where Oliver actually asked Felicity to actually tutor William with his math test, because we all know Felicity's a genius in math, obviously. She's a genius in everything, but anyway. And at the same time, while Oliver's asking Felicity to help tutor William, he's trying to convince John that, he's competent, because, of course, John doesn't believe he's competent to be Green Arrow. And, of course, I don't think Oliver knows about John's injury yet. So, most likely, if he doesn't, I'm not sure if he does, but if he doesn't, he probably thinks that John's doesn't feel confident about being Green Arrow, but that's not the case at all. John actually has an injury from the island, and now it has tremors. So, yeah, he's trying to convince John, hey, you are competent, you're a good Green Arrow, better than I ever could be, blah blah blah, and Felicity helped my son, all that stuff. So he's trying to act as normal as possible, more like a confidant for Team Arrow. Anyway, Team Arrow manages to track down a rogue group of mercenaries led by someone named Onyx Adams. And I remember that name, just not much, if I remember correctly. He is from DC Comics. Actually, no, not he, she, sorry. If I remember correctly, in the comics, Onyx was actually an old member from the League of Assassins, until she retired and decided to become a vigilante, and then later encountered the Green Arrow. So, pretty damn cool how, Onyx shows up here in live action. I think it's pretty damn cool, because I think this is the first time we actually see Onyx in live action. We have seen Onyx before in the media, But this is by far I think the first time we actually see Onyx in live action media, but we have seen Onyx in media before. If you have watched the animated film Batman Bad Blood, Onyx appears there as the right-hand woman of Heretic. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. Heretic, Heretic, or whatever. But anyway, she appears as the right-hand woman to Heretic in Batman Bad Blood. So if you haven't watched it, watch it there, and you will see Onyx there. But this is by far the first live action of Onyx we ever see. Give me one moment here. Sorry about that, guys. Since it's like 2-something, I wanted to make sure if I'm not being too loud. But anyway, group of mercenaries led by Onyx Adams. Team Arrow tracks them down and to a hotel, and they end up engaging in a fight with them. And apparently, this rogue group of mercenaries led by Onyx, they had a biological weapon with them. Luckily, pretty interesting fight, you know. John got his groove on in that fight because he's pretty badass. I loved it. And when they engaged the mercenaries and Onyx, they managed to defeat all of them and saved all the citizens there from the biological weapon that the mercenaries and Onyx had, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't remember much because, again, this episode premiered like October 26th, so I'm pretty much 2 weeks behind. But John ended up getting his groove back in this episode. Not really in this episode, but in that fight, like in the previous one where he wouldn't even shoot an arrow, most likely because of the tremors. But anyway, back with the whole city council trying to draft a tighter anti-vigilante bill, with no way to stop the bill, Oliver actually converts into a citywide I can't even pronounce it, referendum or something like that. If I remember what a referendum was, it's pretty much a direct vote in which an entire electorate is invited to vote on a particular proposal. And it actually can result in an adoption of a new law, basically. And in some countries, it's similar to a vote on a ballot question. You know what I mean? So, which I think is pretty cool, how they're somewhat bringing a little more politics into this, which I'm not surprised they are, considering, you know, city council's involved, Oliver being mayor. So I'm kind of not surprised that they bring in more politics in this. It's really interesting. If they did this more often, I actually might be interested in politics. I'm not trying to be mean to any politician or anything, or anyone into politics, just because they like politics. I'm just saying I was never into politics. But if they introduced it more like this, I might be interested. Anyway, that one, what was it? Was she a CIA lady or whatever, or Watson? I know her last name was Watson. The one that was pretty much came into the fold because, you know, the whole Oliver's Green Arrow photo came out. He's like, I'm gonna investigate you, Oliver, and all that stuff. That lady, Watson, she starts suspecting John to be the Green Arrow. At the same time, Felicity and Curtis actually gift John arrow fighting. Felicity and Curtis made a new weapon for John, since he's now Green Arrow, and for some reason he's not shooting arrows with the bow. Felicity and Curtis decided to give an arrow weapon to John, but at the same time it's an arrow weapon that will fit more of John's personality, because remember, before he took up the Green Arrow role, he was Spartan. He dealt with guns. So how can you do with guns and an arrow weapon? Felicity and Curtis found out how. They gave John an arrow-firing crossbow, which is pretty much a gun and an arrow combined. It had a love child, basically. So I thought that was pretty cool. I like the fact that he pretty much has a weapon that integrates with Green Arrow, which he now is, and integrates with his old Spartan background, which was the gun, which I thought was pretty cool. And with the tremors, it'll probably help more with John, you know, actually using the weapon despite the tremors. But you never know. Anyway, apparently we see two other interesting, groundbreaking things. They're not really much, in my opinion. Well, the second one is, but the first one being Oliver resuming his relationship with Felicity. I'm not trying to be mean to any Olicities, but, Olicity, fans, but, I don't know. They kind of, fizzled out a little bit. I don't know when and where they fizzled out, in my opinion, but to me they kind of fizzled out, so I wasn't very meh about the whole Oliver resuming his relationship. I mean, good for both of them, but it's like, it didn't really excite me like it used to, anyway. But, like, good for them, and I like that Felicity's bonding with William, because remember, that was a huge thing with Felicity and Oliver, like, breaking up and all that stuff, because Oliver kept the secret of William away from Felicity, remember that? But seeing her bond with William, kind of cute. But the one thing that amazed me, which kind of made me sad too, is what they're doing with John's storyline. Because at the end, it is revealed that our dear sweet John Diggle is injecting drugs into his body to control his tremors. And the reason why I say they're giving him this storyline is because if you guys ever read the comics, particularly the comic books involving anybody, and I mean anybody in Green Arrow's life, you will recognize this storyline. Spoiler alert for those who have not read the comics or don't know, in the comic books, Green Arrow's protege, Roy Harper, who has been known as Speedy, Red Arrow, Arsenal, all that stuff, Roy Harper in the comic books was a drug addict. He actually would inject himself with drugs, and Green Arrow at one point found out and pretty much got so pissed off, he's like, get out of my face and all that good stuff. It was a very heavy topic, especially considering Roy Harper is one of the younger heroes. I mean, he's one of the Teen Titans. He's one of the close friends to Dick Grayson, Robin, and Wally West, Kid Flash, and all that stuff. Everybody knows Roy Harper from the comics as one of the teenage superheroes. And when we read the comics and find out that Roy Harper is taking drugs, it was a pretty damn big shocker, in my opinion anyway. And the fact that they're giving comic book Roy Harper's drug problem story to John in this show is an interesting turn of events. You know, I thought they were still gonna give that storyline to Roy, because remember when Thea kind of technically first kissed Roy, she took him to the doctors to give him a shot. You remember that, where he was hella scared of a shot in order to distract him, so he can get the shot without getting scared. Thea kissed him. You remember that scene? That particular scene, when you see Roy scared of needles, that was like a nod to the fact that comic book Roy used needles because he injected drugs, right? So I thought they were still going to give the drug storyline from the comic books to this TV show Roy, but apparently not. Because we've never seen TV show Roy actually take drugs. You did see him get scared of needles, so that was a homage to that, and at the same time, we did see him get injected with Mirakuru at one point, which in a way is a drug, but we never saw him actually self-medicate himself with drugs, you know what I mean, just like in his comic book counterpart. So it made me wonder if they're ever going to actually do that to Roy, or actually give that to somebody else, or not do it at all, and then boom, bada bing, bada boom. They actually do end up doing comic book Roy's drug problem storyline just for John Diggle, apparently. But that's what just broke my heart, because John's always been the voice of reason. To see him actually do this kind of scares me, because John's always been the level-headed one, so seeing him take drugs kind of worries me. The tremors must be so bad, really. But anyway, interesting episode. I hope to God that John does not keep doing these drugs. It was cool seeing Onyx in her first live action, and seeing John get a crossbow was pretty damn cool. And again, I like Felicity bonding with William. I thought it was cute. But anyway, this is my reaction rant to Arrow Season 6, Episode 3, titled Next of Kin. I'll see you guys for last week's episodes of Supergirl, The Flash, Legends, and Arrow. Peace, guys.